Looking to start a Looking to start a church, business, or nonprofit organization in 2022? Do you need help forming an LLC, applying for a copyright or trademark, revising church laws, crafting a succession plan, or developing a compensation package for your pastor and staff? Contact the law office of Travell Travis, a Richmond-based legal boutique focused on the needs of pastors, entrepreneurs, creatives, and our community. Let's make your vision a reality in 2022. Visit TravellTravis.com. That's TRAVELL Travis.com. If you're concerned about the future of your organization when you step down, then Where Will the Mantle Fall? A biblical and legal guide to succession planning is a must-read for you. It delves into the scriptural and legal aspect of succession planning, characteristics of successors, the people, the process, church bylaws, common myths, even issues with nepotism. Where Will the Mantle Fall? Written by Richmond's own attorney, Pastor Travell Travis, and available at Amazon.com.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest, episode of Mantle Mondays. I'm your host, Travell Travis, and we invite you now to like, invite, share, tag. You're in for a treat. If you are interested in entrepreneurship, building your brand, discovering your niche in business, expanding your product line, we invite you to now like, invite, share, and tag. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're also on Twitter as well as YouTube. And this Mantle Mondays is also aired on podcasts on Apple and Spotify. So if you have questions about entrepreneurship, if you want to pick the mind of a successful entrepreneur, we invite you to tag somebody and let them know that they will benefit greatly from the interview on tonight. Our guest tonight is someone I've known for several years, and I am extremely proud to know her and to be able to speak to her and to reach out to her. I've taught entrepreneurship for 20 years at Hampton University, and there isn't a semester that goes by that I do not refer to this entrepreneur and what she's done and what she has accomplished. She is an author. She is owner of her own business, own product line, as well as a realtor. She is a mom, she is a wife, and she's also a primary caregiver. And so tonight, I'm honored to have let me get it straight, the Small Business Administration Woman-Owned Business Owner of the Year, Joy A. Johnson. Let's greet her tonight. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Travell. Thank you so much. That title is a tongue twister.
Did I say it right?
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
So I want to congratulate you once again on such a prestigious award. Can you tell us a little bit more about that award and what it means to you?
That award is it's such an honor because it kind of sums up the culmination of being an entrepreneur in terms of the ebbs and flows that come with being in business. I've been in business for 14 years. My oldest child is 12, almost 13. So she was in the womb when I started this journey full time, and not by choice. That wasn't by choice. So it definitely helps to validate all of my hard work, the seen, the unseen, the tears, the blood, the sweat. So it's truly an honor. It really, really is. So I feel like the Miss America of business. So I've got 365 days to wear this title out.
Right. So it's an annual title.
It is. It's an annual title, and our region, our SBA region for Maryland is whom I won the award for. So every region or every state operates a little differently, or maybe the same. I'm not really too familiar, to be quite honest, but I know for Maryland, it is an annual award. So I'm 2023's Woman-Owned Business of the Year. So
you get a crown?
Look, I'm getting it sized. It's in the shop right now.
Well, congratulations. That is, when you think about all the entrepreneurs in Maryland. I mean, even I'm thinking about PG County, one of the most affluent, prosperous counties, especially for African American women in the nation. And somehow, out of all of Maryland,
Right.
all the female-owned, women-owned businesses,
Right.
you're number one.
Right.
That is
Right.
amazing. That is
It is.
amazing, and we're so grateful. And congratulations to you. I saw the video, and one of the things that really struck my heart. One, I appreciate that validation for your hard work, but it was also the touching moment that your grandmother was actually able to attend.
Yes.
You're your grandmother's primary caregiver now.
I'm one of three. So my sisters and I divide the work based on our own strengths.
Okay.
And so I don't live with her. My sisters live with her, but there are, areas of her personal business that I take care of on a daily basis. And then her health, making sure that I manage, and I'm primarily the one that is, in charge of taking her to her appointments, and then her daily care and making sure that she has the necessary care for her and her health, but then also the ability for my sisters to work. So it is a lot. But my grandmother, when I was 16 years old, my mother died in a tragic car accident. She actually had breast cancer that metastasized.
Wow.
Didn't die from the cancer. She died from a car accident.
Wow.
So the cancer prepared us for her, to potentially no longer be here.
Right.
But the fact that my grandmother was retired, federal government employee, she worked for the National Security Agency, the NSA, and was living her best life and had, raised all of her children. And I'm 16, my sisters are 10, she starts all over again in raising children. And so, it is an absolute honor to care for her in the same way, the exact same way that she cared for us. And so, as hard as some days can be, and as tiring as some days can be, I just constantly remind myself, we could have been in foster care. We could have been having different lives than what we have now. We actually have an excuse to kind of go crazy, but we didn't, between her and God keeping us. So it's an honor to be able to care for her. And it was an honor for her to be there, because even though she has dementia and Alzheimer's, she knows who I am. She knows who my sisters are. And she was cheering for me to get my award. And it really touched me that I'm glad that my sisters caught the moment of her greeting me when I came off of the award stage.
Wow. That's your story alone, which you've shared in just the first few seconds, is inspirational, because as you said, your grandmother came in at a very critical point in your life. You could have succumbed to the loss of your mother, but you and your sisters, thanks to God and your grandmother, have flourished. You have successful careers, and you're doing well professionally, and I'm appreciative that as busy as you are, as busy as your sisters are, you are willing to say, we're going to take care of her as she took care of us.
Yes.
So we salute you, because it'd be so easy for you to say, we're just going to bring in somebody to do this, or put her somewhere else. And how old is she now?
She's 92. She'll be 93 October 19th. And every year since COVID, we indoctrinated the drive-by birthdays, which I love because it's a much more affordable way to have a birthday party.
Right.
But it allows people to just slide on through, honk their horn, and keep on trucking. So we have a celebration for her every year since she turned 90. We've had a celebration every year, and we keep celebrating. She looks forward to it. So I'm looking forward to October 19th, 2023 to celebrate her again, to be 93. And she's the oldest of 10 children, and there are only 3 of them left. So she's truly the matriarch of our family.
Praise God for that. And blessings to you as you continue to do. And I believe God is giving you a certain grace and a certain favor, because you honor her and care for her the way that you do, even though that's not listed as one of your keys to success. I think deep down, God is looking out for you because the way you honor her and take care of her. But I do want to know, entrepreneurship is very demanding. So you're a wife, you're a mother, you have several businesses. How are you able to balance the personal and the professional?
So I actually do not believe in the word balance when it comes to uh business
Okay.
and personal. I believe in the word juggle.
Okay.
I
Okay.
truly believe that just like a juggler, you have three balls in your hand that you
Mhm.
manipulate simultaneously, and then you put one ball to the side and you pick up another third ball and you juggle those three.
Mhm.
So that's truly how I operate my life. I don't try to create balance. There's no way to evenly distribute myself or evenly distribute my efforts
Mhm.
into all areas of my life at the same time. It is
Okay.
impossible. So there are certain elements of life that will sometimes dictate what I focus on. If I have a challenge with my grandmother or something dealing with her health, everything is on the floor. She is the only
Okay.
ball that I'm juggling at that moment. And
Okay.
luckily, my honey, he is extremely supportive and understanding. He understands his family is important to him,
Okay.
and he understands that I was a package deal.
That's good.
And so he understands my sisters, my grandmother, and so he knew that, coming
Okay.
in. And so luckily I can pause home and he can take over and do all the things that need to be done in the home if I need to go and tend to my grandmother. So that's really how I dictate what I'm focused on. I mean, same thing with real estate. There are ebbs and
Mhm.
flows in the market. There are times when I've got every client that's looking to buy and sell. And then there are times when, no one's looking. So I take advantage of the natural cyclical hills and valleys that are always in every element of life. And that's when I determine what I'm putting at the forefront, for that particular time.
So does that keep you from getting, I guess, too high during the highs and too low during the lows because you realize there are ups and downs in entrepreneurship?
Yes. I would say just the experience. I mean, just experience in life
Hmm.
has done a good amount of preparation, in understanding that, this too shall pass,
Right.
good and bad, so
Right.
that everything is eventually going to change. And so the only thing that is inevitable is change. And I have fully adopted and understood that. And different life lessons have made me realize that more than other times.
Right. Right. Right.
But yes, absolutely, just knowing that when it's good, and it's gonna be good. But there is gonna be opportunity, and you have to make room for when it may not be as good. So
So when people say, Joy, you're doing too much, what is your
mhm.
response to them?
That's a constant that I've heard, or especially when people don't necessarily see, the achievements of some of the things. It feels
Right.
like you just all over the place. But
Right.
I remind people that, every individual is multidimensional, and we've
Hmm.
been trained to think you can only do one thing and you can only do that one thing very, very well. Now, I do believe in concentrating on different things, maybe exclusively for a
Okay.
period of time until you've mastered some things. But I enjoy to do a lot of things in life, and so I just so happen of figuring out some of the things that I enjoy doing and how to make money with it. So
Okay.
that's always my response is, I like doing a lot of things. When I got into real estate, at the time I was educating a lot of my time for another beauty manufacturer. So I was traveling
Okay.
domestically and internationally for them. And so when one of my colleagues heard that I was thinking about real estate, she was like, "What does that have to do with nails?" Because I'm a manicurist. And I said, "Don't you work in a building?
Right. 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 Right.
Don't
Right.
you live
Right.
in a house?"
Right. Right.
So didn't you or someone or your realtor negotiate your term
Mhm.
of your lease or your
Right.
mortgage?
Right.
And they were like, well, yeah, and I'm like, that's what it has to do with, real estate isn't everything that you do. You go into buildings every day. So I always find, the singular thread that connects everything. I always find it.
Because you hear that, jack of all trades, master of none, that, like you said, we're not built to multitask. We're built to focus, that you can't be good at several things at one time. Do you ever feel that one profession or one business at a moment is a distraction or a hindrance to the progress or success of the other? And how do you, I guess, recalibrate when that time does happen?
Absolutely. I think that is a very real feeling at times. It, for me, just depends on what is going on. So if I'm dealing with something, like for instance, right now, I'm doing a lot of research on exporting. That's my next, trajectory, is exporting my body care products internationally. And so there are some things within my other businesses that are hindering me from just sitting and studying for several hours like I would like to, on top of picking my children up from camp and dropping them off, and so there are a lot of things that are stopping me, but that doesn't stop me from making the little bit of progress that I can make. So I think that everyone can eat an elephant one bite at a time,
right?
And so if some days I can take huge bites of information and huge chunks and make really good strides, and there are other days that I'm just filled with meetings or things that are not allowing me to concentrate. And so I do try to work on finding ways of niching out time. Like, for instance, in July, I plan to take a few days off from one business so that I can solely focus on another business for about 2 weeks. So that's usually how I justify or ration out my time when I do need to really sit down and focus on something. And even that quote that you mentioned, I haven't memorized it, but that quote, we always stop it at that point. But the rest of it talks about how being multitasked is actually better than being a master of nothing at all.
I like that. I'm going to have to add that. To it, because I hear it like you're doing too much. Your hands are in too many pots, and you never get but so good at one thing because you're trying to do so many things at an average, level.
Right.
But when you mention about vision and strategy, if you're always in the moment, but you're also looking towards the future, how do you live in both realms of, hey, I need to be present for my grandma, I need to be present for my husband, I need to be present for my children, I need to do with the day task, but also I'm thinking about how I can expand the brand, go international. How do you live in both realms?
My children will check me, and my honey, they will check me like, hello, off the phone. That's one. And I pride myself on being very introspective. So when I get frustrated or angry, or I feel like I'm having, a bad day or a bad moment or whatnot, I'm very intentional about looking inward and taking moments to think, like, how could I have done this differently? Where am I the problem in this situation? Because sometimes when you keep constantly coming up against challenges, which is constant, you do have a part to play in that, and so whether I'm being too rigid and not being flexible enough in the situation, or whether I'm being too flexible and not rigid enough in a situation. So my children, my family will absolutely, like, hello, check me in. But I've also grown to love vacations and turning that do not disturb on and putting on my out of office. I enjoy putting on an out of office email.
So now, are your vacations truly vacations, or are they, workcations? I mean, are you still maybe early in the morning, late at night, still returning calls, checking emails, or you completely unplugged?
So I'm never completely unplugged, Esquire, because my vacations are really business trips. Hello. Because we
Okay.
need to write that off.
Right.
No, we do some business. We have a little
Okay.
meeting,
Okay.
we write down our strategy for that meeting and what we've accomplished.
Okay.
And we may take the camera and take some pictures of some products with a tropical background.
Right. Gotcha.
So no, we always incorporate business. We can
Okay.
never operate without it being self-employed, but I can absolutely not respond to an email. I can absolutely not. And luckily within my real estate business, because with that, time is of the essence. If I'm in the midst of a transaction,
Right.
I have a really good brokerage where I can forward all of my corresponding, transactions that are active to my broker. She'll take over, and so I'm blessed to have be a part of a very intimate brokerage that is very understanding. It's also women owned and Black women owned, that I can say, look, girl, I got to go. And she's like, no problem. So I actually can not send an email, but if I'm in some beautiful island and I'm trying to make some traction with getting my products there, I'll send an email or two to try to make a business meeting or something. But we will absolutely write that trip off. But we are absolutely.
But that's good to know that you have a supportive team, because a lot of times in entrepreneurship, the business is largely based off of you as an individual, and you can't necessarily replicate yourself. So when you can't necessarily delegate to somebody else what only you can do, it becomes much harder to shut it off, because if you don't respond, it doesn't get responded to, and that's lost business or disgruntled client. And so
that's very true. But I think COVID helped with a lot of that, because I don't have a large team within my beauty business. I'm actually in the midst of growing that to really be able to offload and delegate some things, which would free up my time. But COVID really helped with consumers being more understanding about the shop is closed, that definitely helped with not feeling like I've got to be on all the time. I definitely felt that, especially when I had my brick and mortar over the course of, a good 10 years, where I've never felt like I could get away, because, if I'm gone for a week, my clients are going to fall apart.
Right.
So I am thankful to COVID for that, of people being more aware that entrepreneurs, sometimes we are solopreneurs, and the majority of, at least that part of my business, is solo. But absolutely, I think that COVID helped people to realize I'm not responding, but I will as soon as I get back. And I think as long as you update all of the platforms where you're present, people, know to look different places to get the information, to know, oh, they didn't answer because they're on vacation or they're out of the office. So
it's something you said earlier I want to circle back to. How do you know when you are to be persistent versus make a pivot? Because there are times when you just got to keep at it, keep chiseling, keep hammering away.
Yes.
And then there's a time you got to realize this isn't working. I need to go in a different direction. How do you know when to be persistent and when to pivot?
I would say the key factors for me have been if the struggle is just too great, for maybe a certain period of time, that has always been really my indicator. I am quite persistent, but there are times, like for instance, when I decided to transition my business from being in a brick and mortar that I was so proud of, to transitioning into being mobile, because the business just wasn't there. The clients said that they needed different things. I was in a position to make the change and to get a bigger space and to be more accommodating. And one of the challenges a client told me was, you have so many stairs to get to your business. If you were on like a retail level, an entry level, ground level, I could come more. I did all the accommodations.
Right.
And at one point, it just was too much of a financial burden. It just got to be too exhaustive. So I did, 12 months.
Right.
of a 5-year lease and
Okay.
just said, I can't do it anymore. You know, it got to a point where the clients were telling me what they wanted and what they needed, but they in fact didn't support in the way that I felt that they were, or the way that they expressed that they would.
Okay.
And so it just got to be too stressful. And I endured, you know, I would say probably a good 6 to 9 months. You know, initially going in, it was fine, but then it just started to wane. And that's when I realized, okay, you know, we've done 12 months of trying. Let's move on, because now my sanity is getting a little tempered at this point. So I think that is kind of when you know, and not just taking no's as your reason to stop, you know,
Okay.
because you've got to go through, you know, it's a numbers game when you're in business. You've got to
Right.
go through hundreds of no's to finally get to that yes. And sometimes if you can get no's with feedback, that will help you in your pivot, you
Okay.
know, versus just stopping completely.
Right, because you didn't stop completely. You actually discovered a completely different lane that actually accelerated your business. I want to get to that, but I want to go back in time. Entrepreneurs, some say, are born, some are made. Did you have a hustle in high school? I mean, were you always entrepreneurial, or is it something that kind of life circumstances kind of put in your lap, or how did you become an entrepreneur in the first place?
I definitely have always been an entrepreneur. I didn't sell candy in school, but I did. I started selling Mary Kay in college.
Okay.
A friend of mine introduced me to the business, and I was like, I can't work full time or part time and go to school. I knew that my brain wasn't set up for that. But I said, oh, I could sell, you know, cosmetics or skincare, because I could do that conveniently around classes, and
Okay.
I didn't have to be a particular place. But I knew at the age of 16, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't know how or why I knew. I just knew. I had a conversation actually with my grandmother, and you know, she'd asked me what I wanted to do. She was expressing to me how I need to work for the government, that stable income,
Right.
you know, retirement, all these things that I knew nothing about at 16 per se. But
Right.
and I told her, I says, I don't think I really want to work for the government, but I'm willing to try. So actually, when I went to college, my initial thought was to study law and legal policy, because I did want to
Okay.
work for the FBI. But I realized pretty quickly, you know, fast forward a little bit, but I realized pretty quickly that I in fact was not that good of an employee. But I knew at 16 that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I remember distinctly having a conversation with her. I just didn't know what, you know, I just told her, I said, I just don't know what I want to do, but I do know I want to own my own business. And she was a little, you know,
Right.
kerfuffled at the I don't know part, but,
Right.
and that helped her stance of, well, until you figure it out, you can work with the government.
Those good government jobs with all the good benefits that come along with it, right?
Right. Yes.
So you
Absolutely.
knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I have students like that. I know I
Hmm.
want to own own my own business. I want to be an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
but they haven't quite figured out what type of business to go into.
Right.
So you mentioned selling Mary Kay. How did you go? How did you end up in the spa business?
I would say after Mary Kay or during Mary Kay, you know, I stopped at some point. I really enjoyed the makeup part of the business.
Okay.
And ironically enough, when I was in high school, I was in the vocational program, but I was there for Cisco networking. So I would walk past the girls in cosmetology like,
Okay.
that is not a job. Like, they just doing hair.
Right.
You know, I mean, just flip it. Like, I'm going for Cisco networking, you
Hmm.
know. So I actually was involved and walked past that department, but once I got into Mary Kay, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of the training that they provided. You know, they are where I learned so much about business and sales,
Okay.
and I've always been involved in sales. So sales is definitely a heavy part of my background. But they were about numbers. You know, if you trying to get one person to consider to buy the product, you got to ask 20 people, you know,
Okay.
or So that definitely set my foundation up in terms of that. But once I kind of waned from Mary Kay, I was very interested in makeup. And initially I wanted to get into the wedding industry. So I wanted to do makeup for weddings. So while I worked a traditional job, I was seeking out online makeup artistry programs. And so I found one that I could finish in like a weekend. Okay. They had like some sort of intensive, which was perfect because I had a traditional job at the time. And so my weekdays were very occupied with working. So I did that intensive, and that was really the genesis of me being involved in the beauty industry. And from there, I pursued my nail technology license. And from there, I pursued my aesthetics license. So I just kept pursuing more licenses as I got more into the business.
But even then, was the goal, I'm gonna keep my day job and I'm just gonna do this as just a additional stream of income? When did it shift from this is my secondary stream to my primary stream?
It never was, I want this just to be my side hustle. I knew when I had that job that I had already then that I was not a good employee and I didn't want to do that no more. But I wasn't making enough to, make a decision to just abort, because I got married very young with my first husband. And so that I had a mortgage, we had a house. So I had real bills, even though I was 20. I got married. I was 20 when I got married. I turned 21 like the next month. Okay. So I purchased our first home and did all of that very at the onset of us deciding that we were going to get married. So I had real bills I've had real bills for a very long time. Right. So I couldn't just jump, and do it. But fast forward, what caused me to do it full time was about 6 years later. I was still doing makeup artistry. I decided to specialize in applying eyelashes. At the time, that became a very popular service. And then in the midst of that, I was able to complete my nail technology program through an apprenticeship. So I still had a traditional job through and through. And at the end of my apprenticeship, I found that I was expecting my oldest, which would be 13 in August, and could not stand my job. I hated my job. And I worked at a hair salon on the weekends and in the evening. So at that time I was definitely, hustling. So I would go to work in the day, and then certain days during the week and all on the weekends, I would be in the salon where I loved it because it was my escape. And in the midst of that, I was about 6 months pregnant, and my job let me go. Oh, okay. So I guess the disgust I had with the job exposed itself. Okay. And they let me go. And so it was sink or swim, luckily this was towards the end of my program. And so I was able to work kind of in like limbo. You were able to still work under your apprentice, your instructor for a period of time before you took your exam, and it was still, legal. So I took advantage of that entire time, and then took my license, went to the state board and took my license, my exams, and passed luckily, and was able to start my career. But I had no choice. It was sink or swim, because at this time I'm pregnant, and I didn't realize how discriminatory employers can be with pregnant women, because they understand you're going to have the baby eventually, and you're going to need time off. So, yeah. So
was that a blessing in disguise? Because I was thinking, some people talk about work your way out of a job, and you probably would have continued to work your way out of a job, but then there still would have been that point where you would have had to make the leap from the good paying government job with benefits to go full time. But then when you lose a job, you kind of confronted with, okay, well, do I go look for another one, or do I really try to make this work? Is that kind of the thought process?
Absolutely the thought process, because even though I didn't like the job, I was not prepared to not have the job. I didn't have things in place to, like, it wasn't like I was looking online for jobs while I hated this job. No, I still was doing what I had to do, but it was definitely a rug snatched from up under me, you know. And so it was like, oh my goodness, you know, and a lot had happened at that time. I think, you know, because I was having issues with my car, and you know, my job was quite far from where I lived, and I mean, all the things that could have happened. I think at one point, you know, my husband was out of work, and so it was a lot of challenges happening all at the same time. And so it was absolutely a blessing, because it was a push. I mean, it was literally, you know, you're gonna do this or you're not. And so I still interviewed, because it was still pretty frowned upon, you know, the thought of when I would express that I was going to do this full time. It was still like, you know, you about to have a whole baby, you sure?
Right.
So I still played the game and tried, and every interview I went on, I just, my gut was like, this is not it, you know, that you getting ready to hate another job. So
right. Because I'm thinking about, you know, you have a choice of going back to something that security, but you're not satisfied.
Right.
Versus something that makes you satisfied, that perhaps comes with less security at a time when you probably needed security more than ever.
Right.
Married,
Absolutely.
mortgage, kids, and everything. So I can imagine the fear, and then knowing that you're going to have time off. That means, hey, there's no income coming in because I got to take care of all this is going on in your mind. So when you decided to go that route, were you still working under somebody, or was there a certain point where you said, okay, I'm going to do this completely on my own?
So I still work in a salon. That was the best nurturing environment. The salon was wonderful. She was, and the young lady, I still go to her, you know, for certain hair services now. She has a wonderful spirit, and she was so supportive, and was very helpful in me continuing, and was very accommodating, you know, to me transitioning full time. I think she was just as happy to have me as I was happy to have her, in terms of, because at the time there weren't that many Black nail techs. I mean, now it's no big deal finding a person, you know, a non-Asian nail tech, I'll say, you know, right. And especially in this area, because when I lived in New York, it was a lot of Latina nail techs, you know, so in this market, in like the DMV area, it was almost unheard of to have, you know, an African-American nail tech. So I think she was glad to be able to say, you know, we have one of the few. And then I was glad to say I have a home, you know, I have a business home where I don't have to worry about all the responsibilities of being an entrepreneur. I've just got to come to work every day like my regular job, and show up whether I have clients or not, to be able to seize opportunity, you know, because if I'm sitting there and people are like, oh, you do nails, you know, yes, I do. And I can pull my tray up while you're getting your hair dried, you know. So that was a beautiful relationship, because, you know, she helped me, I helped her, and her clients and my clients ended up, you know, kind of being cycled through. And it was a wonderful establishment to cultivate and begin my journey.
So then when did the next level come in? When did you get the push to say, you know what, maybe you can go out on your own with this?
My daughter was 2. So that's about 2 years after she was born was when I was ready to find my own space and occupy, you know, have dominion, so to speak, over my own environment.
And that's the brick and mortar, leased and everything.
And but it was inside of an office building. So I still wasn't fully responsible for, you know, all 4 walls, all 4 exterior walls. You know, I was only responsible for my suite and my office. So it luckily I was able to get creative on how to provide services without having a running sink in my specific suite. And so I was able to provide services, and we had like a community bathroom. So I was able to go there and fetch water, and I crafted, you know, creative ways of being able to bring warm water in, and having a little Instapot, and, you know, so I found out ways to make it work, make it happen. And so I occupied that space for a few years before, maybe about a year and a half before I decided to move to my second location, which was a little bit bigger.
One of the things I love about you, and one of there's several things I love about you, but the things I speak about to my students it's really, I have a lot of students that want to do nails, lashes, hair. I mean, that's even though they're at Hampton, they're doing it unlicensed in the dorms,
Right.
some are licensed, a
Yep.
lot of them, that's their aspiration. But when it comes down to having that unique niche about them, I always refer to how you specialize in diabetics and cancer patients, and also the pivot from the brick and mortar to the mobile. How did you mentioned about the leaving the brick and mortar? How did you come across or find that lane with diabetics and cancer patients?
So the cancer community was a community I was very familiar with because of my personal experience with my mother. Albeit she didn't disclose a lot of her illness to me because she was 14 when she was I was 14 when she was diagnosed and 16 when she passed. And my mother was always a very private person. She would have heart-to-hearts with me, about different things in life, but when it came to her health, she was extremely tight-lipped about things. And I can also think about it now as a mother,
Right.
how you don't want to divulge too much to scare your children. But I can now say too, I would have appreciated a little bit more conversation about what was going on. But I can
Right.
only imagine her own, mental health with dealing with, having that disease. So I absolutely give her grace, for handling things the way that she did, because I can only imagine. Right. So I would have to say that the cancer community was already a close community to me based on my personal experience. And, unfortunately, her brother passed from cancer. My grandfather, her father passed. So cancer and I are very familiar.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I was involved with that community. And so I wanted to volunteer. I used to volunteer with the organization Look Good, Feel Better. And I really enjoyed helping those women learn how to apply their makeup and do different beauty treatments with their new selves, because a lot of the side effects of cancer you can see visibly on people. And so that's how I got into that community. And the diabetic community, I got involved with that because that's really synonymous with nail care. Unfortunately, if you have diabetes and you go untreated, you can lose your extremities. You can lose your toes. You can lose your feet. You could be above knee amputee, below knee amputee. And so diabetes, out of all of the diseases that, when I think about all the diseases that I'm at least aware of, that's one of the ones that people kind of talk about the most, because it has to do with your diet, so your health, right? And then it also has to do with your skin, a lot of your organs. And so with being a nail professional, diabetes is one of the diseases that we specifically ask about, because that determines how we perform the service on you. And the same thing with cancer. So I knew that I wanted to focus on those sensitive health communities, because I actually saw more parallels within those communities than differences when it came to how I needed to treat them. And that is what helped me to niche down to those specifics. So the cancer was to honor my mother. And that's why at one point the benefit element of our company was to offer free services monthly to cancer fighters while they're in the midst of their disease. Because sometimes you see programs for cancer winners or those that have battled and they've come out, but everybody doesn't come out of that battle. And so I wanted to honor people that were in the midst of that battle by giving them a free treatment with a doctor's note, advising what we could and could not do. Because at least I would say for men and women alike, a haircut, a little tube of lipstick, some lotion on your hands, you start feeling like a new person. And so that's why the cancer community was so special to me, and why I wanted to honor them, to honor my mother, because she was a American Airlines flight attendant. She always looked fabulous, and it wasn't in a vain way. It was in a I care how I show up in the world way. And cancer really robbed her of being able to recreate, that feeling,
Right.
because sometimes she didn't have the energy, to do it. So I
Right.
wanted to do that to honor her. But then diabetes is so close to my profession. I wanted to honor them because it affects African Americans 60% more than any other racial group.
Right.
And we are number 3 in the world. It's Asia,
Wow.
India, and the United States are the top 3 regions that are affected by diabetes.
Wow. And
Yeah.
I think about it, as you said, when, part of the fight for cancer is a will to live. And sometimes how one views themselves or how they look can impact their will to live. And so
Yes.
what you're doing is so much deeper than just, you're really tapping into the soul of a person and the
Yes.
willingness to fight and about look good, I feel good, I'm going to keep. And then the diabetic, as you said, is not just I want to get my nails and feet done. Like this could be life or death.
Yeah, I can lose a toe if I go to the wrong
Right.
manicures. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, even with that said, wouldn't everyone say that they treat everybody? So how do you go further than just saying, well, this is who I specialize in, to really specialize? Is that about how you advertise? Was there special training? Like, because anybody can say they specialize in anybody and not really specialize in them. So
Correct.
how did you go beyond just saying this is who I want to work with to actually really being known as doing something different in the care and the treatment versus any and everybody else around who may say that they could treat them just like you?
Right. It's both things. It's marketing and advertising, right? Because that's a part of business. I mean,
Mhm.
people don't know if you don't say anything, but
Okay.
it is the training. It's taking classes. It's going above and beyond just the minimal requirement for your state, in terms of continuing education. It's about reading books. It's about learning from medical professionals, because
Okay.
nails is very, even though it's seen as beauty and kind of dismissive,
Mhm.
it's all science, right? It's
Right.
all, we're dealing
Right.
with either chemistry or we're dealing with
Right.
biology. And when you really understand that, then you will treat how you're treating your clients to that same esteem as a medical professional, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's absolutely the training, it's taking classes, it's learning from other brands that have products that have been tested and are known to provide results and benefits to people that are in those immunocompromised communities. So it's a combination of both marketing, but then the more important element is the training and implementing services that can further, help to convey that you're specializing within that treatment. So, for instance, our services are not 15 minutes. I mean,
Right.
there's 15 minutes is a consultation, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
It's really like our pedicures are 90 minutes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so being able to take our time, because with the diabetic, you can't quickly get them
Right.
in and out like a
Okay.
lot of what I call discount nail salons do. You can't
Right.
this next one, come on in here and sit down. You absolutely, for everyone, you should be properly disinfecting and sanitizing your implements and your stations. But you absolutely have to do it for people that have compromised immune systems,
Okay.
And so luckily, COVID helped to
Mhm.
make people more aware
Right.
of being more particular and being more discriminatory in terms of understanding how
Mhm.
the professional is actually
Right.
sanitizing and disinfecting, and preparing the space for
Right.
their clients. So those are some of the benefits of COVID. It made people more aware of, if I scoop my hand in this jar and I'm about to put this product on your hand, does
Mhm.
that mean she scooped her hand in that jar for everybody else before me?
Wow. 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 Wow.
And all she needs to do is take a popsicle stick or an
Mhm.
applicator and stick her hand and toss that in trash. And that way we're
Mhm.
not cross-contaminating that jar.
And so do
So
you have to highlight those little things or
yes,
okay.
because unfortunately, with at least within the nail world, usually people get services and they're not able to effectively communicate with their professional. And so because of that, when they do come across me, when I was practicing actively, I got 99 questions at the first appointment. Well, are you licensed? And
Right.
And I would answer them, and I would also ask, do you ask all of your nail techs these questions? No. And they're like, well, no. And I go, oh, okay. Well, why not? Out of curiosity. Well, usually I can't. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's quite enlightening when you realize that you're willing to kind of put your health in this person's hands, and you're not able to effectively communicate with them about what you want, what you don't want, or even that you have a disease that requires extra care. But for the aesthetic, you're willing to take that risk. So it's quite interesting.
So part of your marketing is educating the community on the benefit or the uniqueness of how you approach perhaps what we say maybe is a common business, but it's how you approach it with the attention to detail, health, safety. Do you also have to deal with the psychological and mental? Like, because I imagine you tended to somebody for 90 minutes who's dealing with cancer or diabetes, that you're talking to them. Did you have to get training, or have you developed somewhat of some training to deal with that part of the business that maybe you hadn't anticipated?
Well, I believe in therapy, I tell you that.
Okay.
So part of it is absolutely, I would say a ministry, in that part of it is teaching, and helping them understand. I may not be the only person that ever touches you in performing these services, but these are the things I want you to look for moving forward, even if I never see you again, right? These are the new standards I want you to have. So there's education. There's education about what they can do at home to help maintain and have a safe way of caring for their body, and how, based on their illness, how they need to be different than maybe they were once before the illness. Because I feel like medical professionals especially don't explain, or maybe don't realize that they have to explain to their patients that when you've been diagnosed with something later on in life, and you've been doing something for 30, 40, or 50 years, and now you have to do it almost the opposite, that takes a retraining of the brain. And so I try to help them to understand why, as a diabetic, you can no longer get your eyebrows waxed or your lip waxed, something that they've been doing since they were 16, why you can no longer do that, because it's an opportunity for you to bleed out. And a part of the disease affects the nervous system, and it affects the brain's ability to tell the body, to clot that area that's bleeding, and it doesn't do that. So it could lead to never scabbing up, which can lead to an ulcer, which can lead to an amputation. You can get down a slippery slope with something that's not a big deal under other circumstances. So there's an education element, but then there's also helping them to feel whatever their normal is, and maybe not talking about their disease.
Okay.
Because a part of when something kind of happens to you in terms of a new diagnosis is you feel like that is a part of your identity as a whole. It's almost like, being a new parent, for when you introduce yourself, hi, I'm Joy Johnson. I'm a mother of two, it's like, well, you're more than a mother of two, So you want to give them information that they can chew on, that's digestible. You don't want to use these large $90 words that go above their head. You want to make it a normal conversation about how they can improve their health or how to act within this new lifestyle. But then you also might want to talk about, did you see what was on the news, or did you see that award show, or did you, what do you do for fun? So you want them to also feel like they probably felt before they got that diagnosis as well. But it can absolutely be heavy. So there definitely is for me, especially, I am an introvert. And so I always need alone time to decompress, whether I've had clients or not, but especially when I was actively seeing clients on a constant basis, I needed time to decompress. So usually I would drive home with no radio on or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me push a little bit further on this area of business. When it comes to the complexity of pricing,
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, very specialized, very attentive,
Mm-hmm.
even willing to give extensive time
Mm-hmm.
to your clients. But also, there's a sense of, okay, these patients are sick or have a condition. And I imagine there's certain populations that expect you to do this for charity,
Mm-hmm.
benevolence, out of the
Mm-hmm.
kindness of your heart.
Right.
Um, and sometimes I get that even dealing with church law, like, okay, you know, it's for the church,
Right.
brother, come on
Let
to
me
this.
ask you. Let me ask you a quick question. That's not quick.
Right. Quick question. They never quit. Can you bless us, brother? And so you want to help, and you
Yes.
instinctively there's something in you that wants to help, but at the same time you gotta pay your bills. How do you find that sweet spot in earning what you deserve,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time perhaps recognizing the needs of your people? I know you mentioned earlier volunteerism, and I know places have contacted you and say, hey, can you just come and just do this out the kindness of your heart? But
Right.
hey, you deserve top dollar, because not everybody has the training and expertise and sensitivity and
Right.
attention to detail that you have. How do you reconcile those two?
Well, I do reference the fact that we do have that free program, right? But
Mhm.
it's funny because I would talk about the free program for cancer fighters, and then someone would, it never failed, email me, well, what do you have for this disease? What do you
Mhm.
have? Why don't you include this disease? And I'm like, well, the
Wow.
disease that I'm including is the
Mhm.
disease that affected me in my entire life,
Mhm.
so that's why I don't include those other diseases, and so I have kind of had that, or or people just say, I can't afford it, and
Mhm.
so it can be a challenge in terms of justifying what it is, but then also having an element of where you can give. And so I always look for opportunities to give, in terms of where I can still have some control, right? Because
Okay.
I don't want to be taken advantage of.
Right. Right.
And so, for instance, at one point, the government had, in here in DC, federal government people had to go to work and not get paid, for a period
Mhm.
of time.
Right.
And that was really, crazy. No one had ever heard of that. And so during that time, I offered my government employee clients, one free service a month,
Okay.
to kind of
Wow.
help. So if they came twice a month, I couldn't do both, but I could at least do
Right.
one.
Okay.
Or if there's something like a natural disaster, I remember there was a natural disaster in Haiti. And so we decided to collect items. So if you brought a donation, then we would give you money off or half off or something. And so that's how I weave in those opportunities where people can
Okay.
get, a break on the price.
Right.
I would always say that it depends on what's important to you when you're structuring your pricing. In the
Okay.
beginning, I just needed seats and chair,
Yeah.
bodies.
Right.
I
Right.
needed
Right.
volume
Right. Right.
because I was beginning. And then as my life got busier, I didn't want to work as much. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that's when I started increasing my price to kind of, some clients would say, well, you're beyond my budget now. And I would say, no
Right.
problem, I understand. And I would even
Yeah.
try to help them find other professionals that may fit what
Mhm.
they're looking to spend.
Mhm.
But that's one way of it. The other element could be diversifying what you do. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
then that may give you some flexibility. So if I'm asked to do something for free,
Mhm.
then I may say, well, in exchange, could your organization buy X number of my books
Okay. Okay.
in
Okay.
exchange for me to come and speak for free? And then
Mhm.
and then you give those books to the people that I'm going to come speak to.
Right. Okay.
So you always look for a middle ground. In the beginning, it may be a lot of free, because you
Mm.
also may need to kind of pad your resume with
Okay.
experiences.
Right. Okay.
And once you get to a point where you feel like you've checked that box enough times, then you can make it contingent on certain things in order for you to continue some sort of philanthropic effort or adjustment to your price. But whenever I give a discount, I always put what the original price is.
Okay.
And then I itemize that there's a discounted amount. That way they understand that the value of what they're getting doesn't necessarily equal what I'm charging them.
Right.
And that
so
helps
is this something that you had to mature to, or do you feel like you were always comfortable with the pricing?
No. Well, in one regard, I've been comfortable with pricing because I've always been involved with sales.
Okay.
So I have built a comfortability with talking about money to people very early on.
Okay.
Because when I was selling things, I had to say what the price was.
Right. Okay.
So that definitely, my sales experience definitely helped me from feeling like I have to tiptoe over things. So that experience definitely gave me the confidence to talk about price. But as I continue to talk to people, that also, made me more comfortable in being able to say, well, what can we do? What's your budget? And let me see what I can do based on your budget.
And that goes back to that Mary Kay experience.
Because it's just me and that one client.
Right.
That's it. And I've got to look them in the eyeball and tell them that this cleanser is $59.99 and not flinch.
Right. Wow. I'm going to get y'all one more time to like, share, invite, tag. We're about to wrap up this interview. If you have questions, please post them in the comments and we'll post them. Dwayne Morris, I interviewed, I think 2 weeks ago. He's a photographer, and we had this conversation about pricing and the Saints wanting the freebies. And so he just commented there. You mentioned Mary Kay. You were a seller of her products, but now I think you're able to disclose that you're getting into your own product line. What's that process like?
That process has been it's really been a wonderful journey. I am an absolute student. I am a novice when it comes to product development, and now as I'm working on exporting and manufacturing and so it excites me. Which is why I think I also like to have diversity within my businesses, because things do get stale, doing the same thing over and over again. Which is why I think I wasn't that great of an employee, because if I do the same thing over and over again, I lose interest. So that's been a wonderful experience. I mean, Joy of Beauty, we're a diabetic friendly body care line. We focused on, and I developed all of the products with keeping people that have compromised immune systems in mind, because 99% of the products on the shelf are made for non-compromised immune system people, right? And so I wanted to have a line of products that were made for the most sensitive within our community, because it actually makes my line more inclusive, because you can include people that don't have compromised immune systems, So this has been a wonderful journey. And so I enjoy learning, and I enjoy not knowing it all, but it is a challenge in when you have to make a decision in terms of pinpointing. Because right now my pinpoint is, where in the world do I want to sell? And that's, we live in a huge world. So that's my current research right now.
So was that in the strategic plan, that you would go from just treating a certain clientele to actually offering your own products to that clientele? Was that, did you ever see yourself at this point?
Oil, and I initially developed a soak that I made in keeping in mind of my son. He had eczema, and so I wanted to make something that I could put in his bath that he could help with his flare-ups. And so I made those products back in 2017, 18. And I was fine with that, just kind of sold them here and there. It wasn't until the pandemic when my services were considered non-essential. And we felt like we were never going to get back to being in person again. It felt like that was never going to happen. Once I got over my depression and wiped my tears, then I got heavy into R&D and figuring out other products that I could create. And so we now have 7 items within our SKU, our lineup. And one of our products won an award last year for innovation. Our poppy seed scrub. So it's been going really well. But the pandemic is what propelled me to expand from just 2 products to 7, because I wasn't able to provide services, for quite some time.
So that was another challenge that created an opportunity for you.
It was absolutely. And it's wonderful because, as a manicurist, we work with our body, and an esthetician. I'm working with my body. And so eventually your body breaks down, and I can't, manipulate and work in these, tight situations for too long. Luckily I don't have arthritis, but you constantly are cramping your hands to perform services. It can get to that point. And so this is a great transition of something where I can, create it, develop it, expand it, and then delegate it, and eventually, package it up, sell it to some major corporation, and work on something next. So that's my goal. I'm trying to retire my honey. So
I like the sound of that. I want to make sure I put that on the website. Joy Beauty, diabetic friendly brand. That's the website, correct website. We also have Nail and Faces of Joy Spa. That's the mobile unit. So you can book her on that site, learn more about what products and services that you offer.
Yes.
You're also a realtor. I want to make sure if you're looking to buy a house, sell a house, or investment property, if you need
commercial and residential, and I help tenants find properties as well, and landlords with property management.
Okay, so any of those things that she just mentioned, right? If you're a tenant, a landlord, buying, selling, if you need someone to manage your real estate, anything you want to share about this market in terms of to buyers or sellers, or any do's and don'ts when it comes to selecting a realtor?
Absolutely. Believe them when they show you who they are.
Okay.
Not say who they are, but show you who they are. And you absolutely want to interview them. That is one of several services that you as a buyer or seller can choose. There's certain elements in the real estate process that you have no choice over or any control over, but that is one that you do. And an excellent realtor can really make or break the home buying process, because it is a wonderful time. It is an exciting time. It can be stressful, or there can be situations that can create stress. And having a professional that matches your personality's needs is imperative. And so you want to interview a couple of them, get referrals from family and friends, talk to them, ask them all the questions, and take your time on making that decision, because you can change your realtor at any time during the process, but that can make it more painful. So it's best to make the best decision from the onset, so that way you're good to go.
Wow. I love it. I love everything that you're sharing today. Your book, if you didn't catch everything that was shared today, this is a powerful book. Joy is the Key to Entrepreneurial Happiness. And all of the courses, entrepreneurship courses I teach, this book is referenced in the syllabus for my students to read. Like I said, I talk about you quite a bit. What motivated you to write this book? And I know you list several keys. I can ask you maybe highlight one or two that you would want the listening audience today to know about.
The book was therapeutic. At the time, I went through many challenges personally and professionally. So I was in the midst of a divorce. I talk about in the book losing my home, losing my car, having to, move back in with my grandmother's basement with my baby.
Wow.
So a lot of humbling experiences. And so I needed to get all of that stuff off my chest, but I also wanted to express, in a very tactful way of, these are some challenges that I experienced. Here are the things that I did to overcome those experiences. And then in each key, I give a room for notes, so you can jot down your own experiences or things that you want to highlight that I may have mentioned. I wanted to make it something where people had tangible tips or keys that they could chew on and actually apply to their life or to their business. So that was the point of it, was to release for me. And then also to be able to help someone else understand. And it's a short read. It's about 11,000 words. You can knock it out in about an hour or two and get straight to the point.
Very powerful. I want to ask you about one of the points that you made. And I had a conversation with, it was in class, one of the students kind of kicked back on the statement. And you was talking about the ones closer to you don't always support you. And I was sharing that, hey, be prepared, that friends and family might be the ones that don't support you. And her response was interesting. She said, I actually don't want my family and friends to support me. And the reason she said that, she was an entrepreneur. She said, I don't want sympathy support. I want to actually earn their support, not just them supporting me because, hey, I'm family and I'm trying to do something.
Right.
What would your take be on that? I when I heard it, I said it makes sense. On one hand, I think friends and family should support you because you are friends and family, but at the same time, I understand we shouldn't take it for granted that just because we have a business that they should, and we haven't done anything necessarily to earn their support. So I wanted to get your take on it. One hand, we shouldn't expect it, but to a certain degree, should we say we don't? I don't know.
That's very interesting. I don't know that. So I understand her perspective. I feel like what she's doing is guarding her heart, And so I can appreciate that. She is managing her expectations with that statement. But I will absolutely take your sympathy, support, and your money. So I would tell her, don't block your blessing, honey.
Right.
Go ahead and take that support, but I would manage my expectations. I have many relatives that have used my services once and no more. And I'm fine, I'm okay with that. And even if they never did, I'm also okay with that.
Right.
But their money is green, just like a stranger's. But I think that we should not expect our family to exclusively use us if we offer a thing, right? I think that they have, their own free will to decide where they want to spend their money. And so on one end, I will absolutely take their green money. But on the other end, if they don't spend it with me, I'm not offended and I'm not upset. But if you prove yourself, to be worthy of the business, I'm absolutely going to treat you like a client. So my expectations of you as my relative is going to be, when I say we have a call at 6, we have a call at 6. Don't call me at 5:55. Girl, I got to call you back. Because I'm going to treat you like a client and say, no problem. Let me see when I can reschedule you.
Right.
That would be my advice to her. But I can understand where she's coming from. She's guarding her heart.
I agree with that. I think so too. And she's guarding her heart. And I think she really wants to know, am I really doing something good? And sometimes if I bake a cake that's horrible, but my family eats it because I made it, how do I know whether or not the cake is good or not?
Right.
And so I think rather than having that blind support for something that's not good, I would rather have not so much them reject me, but at least give me the feedback so I can improve.
Yes.
Because otherwise I have this false sense of security that I'm doing something of quality because my family says it's quality. That's almost like somebody that can't sing, but your family says, oh, you're a great singer.
Yes.
And then you hit the real world and everybody says you're a lousy singer. Well, my mama told me I could sing good. So,
I know, because mama got to.
Right. So did mama do you a favor by setting you up to fail by telling you can when you really can't?
Right.
And then when somebody else who objectively gives you that feedback, it just completely rocks your world.
Right. But I think that in order for them to even be able to do that, they've got to support you. They've got to eat the cake. Right. They've got to buy the book. They've got to do the service. And then, even if you yourself can't ask, well, what do you think? What do you think, cuz? What do you think, auntie? Get another person to ask on your behalf. And maybe, hopefully that relative will be honest with them, because it can be challenging to tell a little baby she can't sing and she's singing her heart out.
Yeah, a question here, and we're gonna wrap up this interview, but a question that was posed: can you see it? Does family support help you gain meaningful market share? Entrepreneur needs to market their products to the appropriate audience, not the immediate audience support community. So I guess you need at least somebody to get the ball rolling.
Yes, you do, and you need practice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe practice makes perfect. I believe perfect practice can get you towards perfect, right?
Okay.
But so you need to be able to present your product. You need to be able to say, well, try this. You need them to squirt the lotion out of the container and it squirt everywhere. And you realize, okay, I overfilled that lot of lotions. I need to fill it less. So, any opportunity to get your product or service out there, whether it's family, friend, or foe, it is always going to be a learning opportunity. So yes, you're not going to target your family for, the infinite time of your business, because, I'm not diabetic.
Right.
My family isn't diabetic, but I've absolutely said, try this oil, try this scrub, tell me what you think, because their opinion as a person or as a user is still valuable. So I think there's still value in friends and family. You just don't need to put all of the value within the friends and family.
Excellent. Joy, thank you so much for this awesome interview. When it's all said and done, and I'm going to give you space just to share from your heart for any entrepreneur that may be watching live or in the future, when it comes to your book, Keys to Entrepreneurial Happiness, there's different indicators of success. Some would say, making a certain amount of dollars, certain market share, being listed as a, top brand or what have you. But when it's all said and done, how will you know, or how will you determine that the life and career of Joy Johnson was indeed a success?
Success for me is equal to freedom. I don't know how this will be, at the end of it all, but while I'm in the midst of the journey, having the freedom to do the things that I need to do, especially for my family, all the while still operating in business is success. So if I stopped right now, I can say that I'm pleased with myself at the fact that the things that I set out to do, they were not all successes in terms of maybe dollars and cents, but they were experiences that helped me to get to a certain point where I have the privilege to have space in my life and kind of can outline my life in a way to where I have time to do the things that are really important to me.
So it's not the billionaire status, it's the quality of life.
It's absolutely the quality of life, but I'm not mad about a billionaire. We need money to operate in this world.
Right,
so,
right.
Hear my heart, but I can take care of my grandmother. Every other morning during the week, I go to my grandmother and get her up, help to bathe her, and get her ready to go to her adult daycare just about every other morning. I have the ability to do that.
Okay.
And so that's success to me. I have the ability to drop my children off at camp, 2 different camps this summer at 2 different places. And I have the ability to go pick them up. And I have the ability to do that without fear of losing a job. Gotcha. So that for me is important. And that for me is success as I'm working my way towards those billions of dollars. But right now, my life right now, the freedom to do the things that I need to do in my life and that I want to do are a success to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Joy. And what I'm going to do, thank you for this powerful interview. Once again, like, share, tag, invite, post it on somebody's wall, inbox it to somebody, take the link, text it to somebody and say, hey, you need to check out this interview with this entrepreneur. She's phenomenal. If somebody wants to reach out to you for mentoring, or how would they just to follow you on Instagram or LinkedIn or?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm the Joy A. Johnson on LinkedIn, and on Facebook, I'm Joy A. Johnson, I believe. So if you go to any of my websites, joythekey.com or nailspacesofjoy.com or joyofbeautybrand.com, hence all the joys.
Right.
You can reach me. You can absolutely reach me, but and I would love to answer any questions or provide any feedback.
I love that, because one of the things you talk about in here is the importance of mentorship and having people to coach you, and you've been transparent not only in your book but in this interview and other interviews. And so she's given an invitation to perhaps reach out to her to receive information. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to log off or exit, and I'm going to allow you just to speak from your heart to maybe a young lady, young man, but maybe a young lady who's trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Maybe has been dealt a bad deck of cards. Maybe has what, as you mentioned in your book, the thing that keeps them awake at night, mm-hmm. but is afraid to kind of pursue those dreams, maybe because of circumstances, or maybe they didn't have the person in their life to really speak that confidence into them. So whatever the Lord places on your heart to share with whomever, we're going to yield to you. And once again, thank you all for joining us tonight for Mantle Mondays. God bless you. Until next time.
Thank you. I would just like to say that for anyone that's interested in the entrepreneurial space, is to definitely seek wise counsel. Some free services that you can utilize, that I utilize myself, are the Small Business Development Center. They are a subset of the SBA, the Small Business Administration. They have free counseling. They also have a variety of either low cost or free classes that you can take advantage of. And you can start utilizing their services to help filter through and figuring out what it is that you're looking to do, or figuring out some sort of plan. And taking baby steps is better than taking no steps. And I would say absolutely do not compare yourself to anyone else. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole of feeling like you should be further along, or you should be here, or you should be there. Your path is just like your fingerprint. It is specific to you. It is attached to your identity and who you are supposed to be in the world and how you are supposed to show up. Maintain faith and only share with those that are going to help encourage you. Otherwise, keep your mouth closed. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Looking to start a church, business, or nonprofit organization in 2022? Do you need help forming an LLC, applying for a copyright or trademark, revising church laws, crafting a succession plan, or developing a compensation package for your pastor and staff? Contact the law office of Travell Travis, a Richmond-based legal boutique focused on the needs of pastors, entrepreneurs, creatives, and our community. Let's make your vision a reality in 2022. Visit TravellTravis.com. That's TRAVELL Travis.com. If you're concerned about the future of your organization when you step down, then Where Will the Mantle Fall? A biblical and legal guide to succession planning is a must-read for you. It delves into the scriptural and legal aspect of succession planning, characteristics of successors, the people, the process, church bylaws, common myths, even issues with nepotism. Where Will the Mantle Fall? Written by Richmond's own attorney, Pastor Travell Travis, and available at Amazon.com.